Hey everyone, welcome to the GRadulting Workshop Series. It's brought to you by Graduate Student Legal Aid, and thank you all for making the time to join us today. My name is Debbie McCutsky, and I am the coordinator of services and programs for Grad Legal Aid. And today we will answer the question, how do I buy a car and take care of it? Before we get to that question, I have a few announcements. As some of you know, the GRadulting Workshop Series takes place on Tuesdays at 12:30 p.m. And over the past several weeks, we've addressed a variety of topics, including how to get a Maryland driver's license, how to manage student loan debt, how to avoid plagiarism. So if you missed any of those workshops or you want to see what we've offered so far this semester, you can find links to the recordings and the presentations and other resources on our website. And we'll share the link for that in the chat. So looking ahead to next Tuesday, the question we will answer is, what should I know about auto insurance and car accidents? Excuse me. You'll find the registration link on TerpLink, on our website, in our e-newsletter, and we will also post that in the chat. So in addition to the GRadulting workshops, Grad Legal Aid provides free legal services to UMD graduate students. We have an attorney on staff. His name is Zach Mundy, and Zach provides one-on-one private consultations with students. We have an immigration attorney who meets with students on a monthly basis. The next dates that she'll be meeting with students are, let's see, November 11th and December 9th. We also have advocates on staff who help students who are charged by the university with a violation of the Code of Conduct or the Code of Academic Integrity. They are Tara and Cody. And if you would like to schedule an appointment with any of those folks, all appointments are virtual, and just go to our website for the details. Okay, now I want to lay the groundwork for our workshop today. We will share the PowerPoint presentation after the workshop, so you don't need to take a lot of notes today. Please post your questions in the chat. And finally, near the end of the workshop, we will post a link to our 6-second survey. Literally, this survey is 6 seconds. So please take the time to fill out that survey, give us your feedback, share your ideas for future workshops. We need to hear from you because we want to offer the highest quality workshops possible. So let's get started with today's workshop on the topic of car buying and car care. We have not one, but two terrific speakers with us today from the Montgomery County Office of Consumer Affairs, Sharon Margolis and Doug Numbers. They are both seasoned investigators, and they have addressed consumer complaints and provided consumer education for the past 26 years or more. So, Sharon is an attorney. She got her law degree from George Washington University and her BA from Boston University, and she's a member of the Maryland Bar. Doug Numbers got his BS degree from the University of Baltimore, so he is homegrown. Over the past few years, both Sharon and Doug have presented this workshop, and we appreciate them volunteering once again to share this valuable information. I purchased a used car last year, and I went back to this workshop and found the information to be really helpful. So I hope this is helpful for you as well. I'm going to stop talking now and turn things over to Sharon. So Sharon, please get us started. How do we buy a car?
Great, thank you. So as Debbie said, we're talking about car buying and car care. I'm going to be dealing with the car buying part of it, and Doug's going to deal with the car care part of it. So we'll start off with the car buying. And, one of the most important things that I can't emphasize enough is to do your research. You never just show up at a car dealership. You need to know all about the cars you're looking at before you start shopping. The internet is a wonderful thing. You can find lots of information about prices, costs, features, and reliability ratings. You never leave it up to the seller, whether it be a dealer or private individual, to tell you what you need to know. So as I just touched on a little bit, you need to choose where you're going to look for a vehicle. You've got dealers, or you can buy privately. Now with a dealer, since they are required to be licensed with the Motor Vehicle Administration, so there is some regulatory authority over them, and that they have to abide by. Dealers, so you may be able to check for complaints against dealers with consumer protection offices and the Motor Vehicle Administration. Dealers may provide a warranty. You're not required to purchase any extended warranties, but depending on if it's a brand new car, it will come with a manufacturer's warranty. If it's a used car, as long as it's not older than 6 years and have more than 60,000 miles, then there will be at least a minimal warranty provided. And the dealers do have to put cars through a safety inspection, although safety inspections in Maryland are pretty minimal. If you're buying from a private individual, the car may cost less, but there will be less regulatory oversight. And there's always the potential that any private individual actually may be an unlicensed dealer. So that the term of art for that is a curbstoner. It's someone who's actually selling multiple vehicles, but pretending to be the private owner of a vehicle. And that is not necessarily a good person to do business with. So before you buy any vehicle, whether it be new or used, you have to inspect it very carefully. I can't tell you the number of times we've received complaints about people who have bought a car and wait until the next day to look at it, and then all of a sudden they see all these scratches. So they want to come back, they want to return the car. Well, it doesn't work that way. You've got to inspect the car before you buy it. With used cars, you should get it inspected by a mechanic and a body shop as well to get the best information about it. And although some used cars may be termed by dealers to be certified, supposedly have gone through an extensive inspection by the dealer, don't rely on that. You still need to do it yourself as well. So used vehicles are required to undergo a safety inspection prior to sale or transfer. But as I said before, this is very minimal. In terms of the responsibilities for who's responsible for performing this safety inspection, usually it's the seller or the transferor of the vehicle who's required to provide the certificate. And that's how it works with dealers. But in a private party transaction, either the seller or the buyer can obtain the certificate. The buyer then submits this inspection certificate to the MVA in order to register it. Now there is now an electronic inspection service called e-inspection. So if your vehicle is inspected at an inspection station, you actually won't receive the certificate directly. It'll be electronically sent to MVA for you. So you need to find out as much as you can about a vehicle's history. And there's different ways to do that. There are services, Carfax is one of them, where you can put in the VIN number of the vehicle and it'll present whatever historical information that it has. But Carfax and any of those other services are only as good as the data that they've received. And while they do have a lot of agencies that they get information from, it's not always timely. So it could be that something could have happened to the vehicle that has not yet shown up on Carfax. There's a government site, also another site similar to Carfax, but again, same problems. You should always ask the seller questions. Has the car been in an accident? Where did the car come from? And this is for the dealer or a private person. And any representations that get made to you, you should put them in writing, because the only way to prove that anybody said anything to you is to have it in writing. You can ask for repair and maintenance records as well. The more information that you have, the better decision that you'll be able to make about the vehicle. And as I said, if you don't have what they've told you in writing, it's going to be very hard to prove later down the line. If someone told you that the vehicle has not been in an accident, get them to sign a statement to that effect. Now, we're telling you to inspect the vehicle before you purchase it. And if you bring it to a mechanic, if the vehicle has been in an accident, there should be evidence and they would be able to see it. So whether or not that's whether you're going to need to rely on that statement somewhere down the road won't be as important. But it's always better to have the information just in case something comes up later. So once you've picked a car, you've researched it, you haven't found any kind of red flags in terms of its condition, then you're going to want to negotiate a selling price. There are places online where you can do that research. A couple of websites I have listed here: cars.com, nada.com, kbb.com. You can find the information in lots of places. You should never negotiate based on monthly payment. Dealer can make a monthly payment, can make the price of a car fit the monthly payment. So if you tell the dealer I can pay $250 a month, they're gonna make the price of that car so that your monthly payment is $250 a month, whether that's a good deal or not. So always negotiate the selling price, not based on monthly payment. There are buying services out there, such as Car Bargains and Authority Auto, and they will negotiate for you. Now you have to pay for it, but it's nominal. And at least with Car Bargains, they'll guarantee that if you could find a vehicle for a lower price, they would give you your money back. Now, if you're using these services, it's because you don't really want to be doing the negotiation. But anecdotally, I'll tell you, I've knew of someone who did actually get a Car Bargains price and then thought that he could do better, and he did not. So that's just one story, but generally what they're doing is they're going out to all the dealers in a particular area not necessarily, they're going out to a bunch of dealers in the area, and they will get you a couple of different prices. So each dealer chooses what their price is going to be, and then you will get printouts from all these different dealers, and then you can decide which one you want to do business with. That's how Car Bargains works. Some companies have their own car buying programs like Costco, AAA, American Express. But the bottom line is, don't be afraid to walk away. If you are not If the dealership is not willing to negotiate with you, walk away. If you think the price is too high, walk away. As soon as you do that, they're going to come running after you if they're really serious. But you've got to be willing to use your feet. That is your best negotiating tool. So once you've got a price, then the question is how are you going to pay for it? Not too many people are going to be able to pay cash for a car, so financing is going to come into play. The dealers do offer financing, but you're not limited to what the dealer offers. There are banks and credit unions that can finance vehicles as well. You can actually go to a bank or a credit union or another financial organization and get a commitment for a loan beforehand. So you can come to the dealership with financing. And that can actually be a negotiating tool for you as well, because the dealer has access to other financing. They may be able to do better once they've seen what you have, if they really want to finance the vehicle themselves. Now, there can be an issue with dealer financing, something that we call spot delivery. Dealer financing may not be final when you take delivery of the vehicle. So you sign all the paperwork, but maybe it's a Sunday or maybe it's late at night. And the dealership will want you to take the car, but they may not actually have the money in hand when you take the car. Once a bank reviews the paperwork, issues may come up, and there is the potential that the financing doesn't get a final approval from the bank. But there are laws governing this in Maryland, and there are certain disclosures that the dealers have to give you when the financing is not final when you take the car. There's a specific form that needs to be filled out and signed by you, and there are time limits in terms of when they have to let you know if there's a problem with the financing. So you do have rights in this situation. What you always have to remember is you're bound by the contract that you signed. If a dealer calls you and tells you you have to come back in and sign a new contract, that's not true. So your rights should be outlined on any document that the dealer has you sign. If they don't do that and this becomes an issue, that's a problem. So in addition to financing with loans, there is also the potential for leasing. I know some people leasing is not as popular as it used to be, but it is still an option. And there are definite pros and cons for each. And whether leasing or buying is going to be better for you is going to depend on your own specific situation. There are times when leasing might be a better idea for you. Some of the main differences, obviously with buying, you own the vehicle and you can keep it as long as you want. You can do whatever you want to it. With leasing, you don't own the vehicle. You have to return it at the end of the lease. And you got to return it in as close to the same condition as when you got it. You may have to pay a large down payment when you're buying a vehicle. So the costs up front may be higher. Although with leasing, there are still upfront costs. The down payment may be lower, but there are other things that come into play. There may be a security deposit, acquisition fee. You may have to pay the first month's payment. But those are costs that can be compared as well. The monthly payments on when you're buying are generally going to be higher than leasing because you have to pay off the entire purchase price of the vehicle. Payments with a lease are going to be lower because you're just paying for basically the vehicle's depreciation during the term that you're having the vehicle. So you may be able to get a better car for less money. Now, one of the trade-offs when when you own the vehicle, you can sell or trade it at any time. But with leasing, you're much more confined. If you want to end the lease early, they can be really high fees to do this. In terms of getting rid of the vehicle, well, if you own the car, you'll have to sell it or trade it if you want a new one. With leasing, maybe you're someone who likes to get a new car every 3 years. Well, if you're leasing the vehicle, you can return it at the end of the lease and walk away. With buying in terms of the value of the vehicle, while the car does depreciate, you will have some equity that you can use towards another vehicle if you want to trade it in. With leasing, obviously you have no equity. You don't own the car. You have to return it when the lease is up. There may be mileage limitations on a lease that you don't have, obviously, when you purchase. And with leasing, you're going to be responsible for any excess wear and tear, and may lead to extra charges for you at the lease end. At the end of the term of a loan, you've got a car that you continue to use and you don't have to make any payments on it. The end of the term of a lease, you're going to have to get another vehicle and you're still going to have payments. So you will never be if all you do is lease, you'll never be without a monthly payment. And then finally, with repairs, there's a manufacturer's warranty that exists when you purchase the vehicle new, that of course does expire after time. But when you're leasing the vehicle, a lot of times the manufacturer's warranty is in effect the entire time you own the vehicle. The entire time you have the vehicle. So whether you purchase, whether you lease, whether you pay cash, you have to read every document very carefully. You don't sign something that you don't understand. There is no 3-day right to cancel a car contract. I can't emphasize that more. I know a lot of people think that exists. It does not. And, this is especially important now, because contracts are more and more coming in an electronic form, and the dealers are having you sign on tablets. If you are uncomfortable doing that, ask them to print out a copy for you to look at. You really need to make sure you understand all the terms. You cannot take anything that anybody said orally as fact unless it's actually on the contract. So if you think you're getting a certain price for the vehicle, you need to make sure you see that number on the paperwork. Don't take their word for it. You look at every number carefully and you make sure it agrees with what your understanding of the terms are.
Sharon, didn't that new law take effect October 1st? The one the AG's office pushed through this year, where they have to give you copies if you ask for it and all?
Well, I think they always had to give you copies. The question was in what form.
Right. But they have to print it out right now and all. I think that's what the one that took effect October 1st.
Well, you should always ask.
Yeah.
Always ask for copies. And that actually is the end of my portion. So if there are any questions on anything that I've talked about so far. If not, then we'll go on. Debbie, were there any questions on
No,
anything?
nothing yet. We'll let you know.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Doug, you ready?
Sure.
This here is just some of the websites that I mentioned briefly, and there are some others. So the NADA was, they have pricing information. Kelley Blue Book has pricing information. Edmunds does as well. Consumer Reports, of course, they review vehicles and they have information on reliability of different vehicles. Washington Consumers Checkbook, they actually are the company that has the buying service Car Bargains. And of course, Yelp I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. And the National Insurance Crime Bureau, they will have, they have information on
Cars that are salvage or possibly have been stolen.
they will tell
If you're thinking
consumers.
of, if you're thinking of a used car, you can run the VIN through there to see if it has any type of salvage history or was stolen. So, and it's free.
Consumer World is just a good, good resource for anything consumer related. Uh-oh. I'm sharing the wrong.
Oops.
Okay, hold on. This is not, okay.
Do you need me to pull mine back up?
Yes, I will stop sharing and you can.
Well, we couldn't make Doug a co-host, so
all right, hold on.
I'm not sure that he's going to be able to share his screen.
Okay.
Yeah, I still cannot make him a co-host.
All right. Hold on.
So while you're looking, Sharon, and maybe you can answer this, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys see a whole variety of types of concerns. Is car related issues, car buying issues, or car repair issues at the top of the list or near the top of the list?
I would say yes. But home improvements actually, I think, has kind of bumped out the car stuff in like recent years. Cars are probably, I think it's towing, home improvements, and then car stuff. Not all. Because I guess because home improvements usually constitute a lot of money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And what did you say the first one was?
Fortunately, towing has been, I don't know if it still is, but that's been our number one category where people, basically private property towing, where people get towed. They didn't see a sign or something like that and their car gets towed. So
got it.
Nobody's happy when their car gets towed without their permission.
Right. So feel free to give a plug for your office and let folks know, if they're a resident. I'm assuming you have to be a resident of Montgomery County to get help from you all.
No, you don't have to be a resident of Montgomery County, but the transaction has to take place in Montgomery County. In other words, you would have to buy from a dealer in Montgomery County, or a business, or a shop, something like that. That's our limitation. That transaction has to occur in Montgomery County.
Got it.
So
that makes sense.
Otherwise, you can file a complaint with, we have the website, I think linked on a slide, the Attorney General's office, the Maryland Attorney General's office covers the rest of the state pretty much. Also, if you live in Howard County has their own Office of Consumer Protection, and they're the only other one besides us. And if you're in Howard County, they can help you.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Are we seeing the slide on recalls?
Yes.
We are.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay, so let's start with, recalls. What if you have a car and you have a recall? Basically, what are recalls? That means there's some kind of safety defect has been detected in the vehicle and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration requires manufacturers to recall vehicles for safety related defects. So basically, they will do an investigation and they can order a manufacturer to do a recall. Most manufacturers do them voluntarily because they want, they don't want people driving around unsafe cars at all. But again, they can be ordered by NHTSA, via the courts at all. And they must notify the National Highway Traffic Safety. There's been, cases over the years where the, car manufacturers have gotten into trouble for not bringing a recall to their attention at all. As a matter of fact, Maryland has started now with COVID. I don't know if this is still true, but when Maryland had started a program that when they sent out your vehicle registration renewals for your tags, that if there was any recalls on your car, they were putting a little notice in your registration to say, hey, your car's got a recall. They had started a program with NHTSA to try to let people know, because people move sometimes. They may not necessarily get the recall notice from the manufacturer, or they may have bought the car secondhand and they may not get it because they're not the original. May got sent to the original owner of the car because it didn't get updated in Toyotas or Fords or GM's, database of, for service and stuff. So, but since people aren't, I'm assuming MVA is still mailing out, registration renewals, but I'm not sure with COVID. I'm not sure, but that was something they started to help make people aware, to make it easier for them to, get, if you're entitled to a free repair, you should get it done, especially if it concerns the safety of your vehicle. Okay, Sharon, next. Okay, where to find information, recalls.gov, safercar.gov. And NHTSA now has an app. You can actually download an app. It came out about a month ago or so. They had a press release that I got. And they now have an app that you can download to your phone and put in your VIN number, and it'll tell you whether there's any open recalls on your car. Now, how do you find your VIN number? Now, what is a VIN number? The VIN number is your vehicle identification number. It is unique to your vehicle. Go ahead, Sharon, next. Now, this is a shot through a windshield of our county car. Basically, VIN numbers are 17 digits. It's a standardized number that they went to back in 1980 to identify the vehicles. And those letters and numbers all mean something. One means it's made in the United States, and they all, it's a code, and it can tell you, year, make, model, engine, that type. And then the last 6 are the sequence number. Like, people all want the new mid-engine Corvette. Everybody wanted that one that ended in 0001, to be the first. So, but a VIN number is unique to your car and can identify it. Go ahead, Sharon. This is another picture of VIN number a little further back, so you get a better, shot of it, that you're looking through the windshield on the left hand. It's on the driver's side of the car. You're looking through the left-hand side of the windshield. Now, most cars on the inside of the driver's door have a label like this with tire and loading information. It tells you what size tires your car has, how much weight your car can hold, and all, with passengers, luggage, things like that, and the, how much air you should put in your tires to maintain your tires and all. But also, if you notice at the top, your VIN number is there at the top as well and all. So it shows you, you also have your VIN number there. So if somebody, you can't see it through the windshield clearly or something, you can always look in. This is inside the driver's side door. So, okay, and this is also on the driver's side door. This is what's known as a vehicle identification label. It tells you who made the car. This was made by Ford, and it was made on August of 2016. That's the month it was manufactured in. It tells you the gross vehicle weight rating. That's what GVWR stands for and all. And it tells you it's a passenger car, the type of it. And this also tells you the size tire and the pressure, anything like that. This is, and your VIN number is on there if you notice too, also. So, and this also has, it just tells you some information about your car. So let's talk about maintaining, you bought a car, you got your new car, you got your used car, you bought yourself a nice new car to you, whether it's new or used. The biggest thing I can tell you is read the owner's manual. My wife and I were just having this discussion on Sunday because she had an issue with her car. And I said, well, what's the owner's manual say? And she was like, that's too big, it's too thick. Well, we had to go through it to figure out how to correct the issue. It wasn't a major issue. It wasn't a mechanical issue or anything like that. It was an issue with, the key fob and all. So now, regular maintenance will keep your new vehicle, if you purchase a new car, a new vehicle warranty intact and keep it running for hopefully a long time in most cases. Cars have gotten much more reliable in the last 20 years and all, and they also can help prevent, doing maintenance helps prevent many common problems and the possibility of being broken down by the side of the road. And, it's kind of different to talk about this now, but there's 3 types of vehicles on the road. gasoline or diesel, which are internal combustion engines. They also we now have hybrid vehicles, which are a combination of electric and, gas powered, and pure EVs, pure electric vehicles. And there's a few other minor, like compressed natural gas, but that's still a compressed, a internal combustion engine like a gas or diesel. And they also have a few hydrogen cars, but they're very few and far between because the infrastructure is not there to supply hydrogen to them at all. So, okay, let's go, Sharon. Next one. Okay, so if you're going to do your maintenance on, I'm going to start with, gasoline or diesel cars. So let's start with maintaining your gas or diesel car. Well, look in your owner's manual. It'll tell you how much oil it holds, what type to take, and the grade of oil. Now, grade means, like what type is regular, or nowadays there's synthetic, and there's also synthetic blends. A lot of new cars, the oils have gotten so much thinner, and there's new standards that almost every car now takes some type of synthetic oil because it protects better. And, engines are running at higher temperatures, better tolerances to get more efficiency out of them. So you want to see what your owner's manual recommends and, what type to use. There's oil change intervals in there. It'll tell you to change it every 5,000 miles, every 10,000 miles. If you don't want to follow that, and you want to do it more often than it calls for, you're not going to do any harm to your engine. Okay. Overdoing oil change. Nobody's ever come to our office and said my car blew up because I changed the oil too much. It was pretty much always my engine blew up because I didn't change the oil or it ran out of oil and all. If you want to do it yourself, you can buy oil filters from, your manufacturer, from Toyota or Ford or GM. They'll gladly you go to the parts department and buy a oil filter or buy them online. Or a good quality aftermarket filter, something made by Fram or Purelator or somebody like that makes good quality filters and all. If you're check for leaks on the ground and at oil changes and correct any that are found as necessary. Basically, oil. If you see oil on the ground, it's going to be black. You see a black stain underneath your car. That's usually an indicator that it's got an oil leak. Low oil level or adding oil in between changes are signs of a leak or another mechanical problem that should be checked out. So in other words, there's specifications. Most manufacturers say, cars may use a quart of oil in 1,000 or 2,000 miles. They have a specification, but most cars don't do that. Most cars, if it's in good running condition and well, you're usually not using oil in between changes. Now, again, if you've got a car with 150,000 miles on it, it's starting to get some wear on it, you may use a little oil in between changes and all and everything. But as long as you don't see anything on the ground and all, that may just be wear and tear. So, okay, wiper blades. Now, people don't think about these. They're cheap. And you can pretty much, most parts stores, the guy will change them for you, for free. He'll go out and put a new, do you need help, and put a new set on for you and all. Change is necessary, every 6 to 12 months, So, it's usually good to change them when the weather's changing. Like if you were coming into winter, maybe it's a good time to put new wiper blades on your car if you haven't put them on since the summer, because they can start streaking or they're not going to clear off the road salt, that type of thing. And it's not hard to do and they're not expensive. Okay, Sharon. Battery, now I'm not talking hybrids here. I will talk, electric, we'll talk that later. This is your normal internal combustion car where you have a battery when you turn the key and it starts the car. There's two terminals, a positive and a negative, that are attached to the battery. You just want to take a look at them, make sure they're tight. And if there's any corrosion, which is like a white powdery substance, wear gloves, don't get it on your hands. It's from the acid in the battery and all, and you can clean, the corrosion off your battery. If your battery is corroded, you can clean it off with a mixture of water and baking soda, which neutralizes the acid. Coke also actually works well because of the carbonation in Coke, the bubbles, it helps dissolve the corrosion and all, and it makes it easy enough to get away and then rinse it off with some clean water. So, all right, brakes. Squeals can be normal. Okay, sometimes brake pads vibrate when you hit the brakes. Sometimes they'll vibrate a little bit and cause a squeal. It's not abnormal unless it's doing it constantly all the time. If it's doing it constantly, that probably means your wear indicator. Most brake pads on cars have what's known as a wear indicator. Now, some have lights nowadays that'll light up on the dash that'll tell you your brake pads are getting low, but most have a little tab that when you apply the brakes, it'll start scraping and it'll make this squealing noise. And it's there to tell you that, hey, your brake pads are down to minimum whatever the car manufacturer specifies. It's down to the minimum thickness of the pads that you're getting down close to they're going to be worn out and you need to replace your brakes. So they call it a brake wear indicator, and that's what it is. It's indicating that your brakes are wearing out. Scraping or grinding is abnormal. If you put your foot on the brake and you hear it grinding or you feel vibration in your steering wheel like that, that means your brakes are probably shot and need to be replaced. Now, again, your owner's manual should have some type of recommendation, check your brakes every 30,000 miles, something like that. If there is no recommendation, the recommendation is depending on how much you drive. If you drive a lot, you should check your brakes probably about once a year, just to make sure you're not down to those minimums and all. But your manufacturer's, owner's manual should have a specification that says, hey, check your brakes every 30,000 miles. Okay. And you'll hear a lot nowadays. In recent years, this has become a thing, brake fluid flushes. And it is important, due to the fact that brake fluid is what's known as hygroscopic and absorbs moisture and can corrode brake system components. 20 years ago, we had a big issue when anti-lock brakes came out. Had a lot of issues that people, brake fluid flushes were uncommon back then. Old cars, before there were anti-lock brakes, people really didn't do much, drive their cars their entire lives and never flushed the brake fluid at all. But it became an issue because of anti-lock brake pumps and stuff that they would start to corrode. And can be an expensive part to replace. So brake fluid flushes became, commonplace as a maintenance item. So again, there should be maybe some type of recommendation from the manufacturer, or every 2 years or 30,000 miles, to have it done. And it's cheap. It's cheap insurance against, anti-lock brakes are complicated and can be expensive. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $1,500 to replace the components in the system. So it can be expensive. So spending $150 for a brake fluid flush, can save you a lot of money down the road. Okay, belts and hoses. Now, some of this is getting away from, because some cars nowadays, like my own personal truck, has electric power steering and all, but it does still have a belt for the air conditioning and stuff. But so they have what's known as drive belts. You can take a look at them. Small cracks are normal. Large cracks, or if the belt is fraying, it needs to be replaced. Now, of course, cars have coolant to keep them cool. Now, hoses, there's two main hoses. You also have what's known as heater hoses that run coolant into the car for, to heat it in the wintertime to make sure the passenger compartment's nice and warm. You want to take a look at, if the hose is swelled up, or, it's kind of soft, or if you see green or red, orange coolant around, it means you probably have a leak and they should be replaced if they need to. Now, again, your owner's manual may have a service interval that says replace the hoses at 100,000 miles. They may not. It's just usually replace as necessary. In other words, if they get worn out, they look soft, they're swollen, they're leaking, that's when you replace it. Now, timing belts cannot be easily inspected, and some manufacturers have gotten away from timing belts in recent years and gone back to what's known as timing chains and all, which is a metal chain as opposed to a rubber belt. Well, actually, the belts are usually Kevlar or something. There's some type of metal reinforcement in them to make them stronger and last longer. So your timing belt, usually your car has an interval to replace timing belts. Like we have a Subaru, we did have, our current Subaru has a chain and doesn't need to have a replacement anymore. But our old Subaru said replace it at 100,000 miles. That was the recommendation from the manufacturer to replace the timing belt. Some say replace it at 60,000 miles. Again, you would look at your owner's manual and see what the replacement interval is to replace a timing belt. You can't see a timing belt. It's usually behind a cover in it's part of the engine. You can't see it. But you also want to replace it when it is specified. Just because it's not broken or anything like that, you replace it when they at 60 or 100,000 miles when they tell you, because there are different types of engines out there, and some are what's known as interference engines. And if the timing belt breaks, it means parts will slam into each other. And if the belt breaks, so valves will hit pistons, things, and it basically is going to lead, you're going to need an expensive repair or an engine replacement. Now, some cars are not interference. They're what's known as freewheeling. If the belt breaks, it won't cause any damage, but they're few and far between. And again, manufacturers have started to go back to chains because it's a cost savings. Basically they're trying to make, maintenance costs lower for people. So not having to replace a timing belt is, a saving, because it's usually not a cheap replacement. It's usually several $100s to replace a timing belt in a car, because you got to take things apart to get to it. So, okay, Sharon. Okay, tires. Check tire pressure, look for unusual wear or damage. Always check tire pressure when tires are cold. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you don't check it in the summertime when it's hot. You check it, what it means when it's cold is you haven't driven your vehicle at all. And basically you check it first thing in the morning or when the car's been sitting for a couple hours, because, when you drive a car and air heats up, it expands. So it could say you have 35 pounds in it because you drove for 20 miles and you got home and checked it, but you get up the next morning and your car's got 22 pounds in it because, it wasn't an accurate reading because the tires were warm. Vehicles made since 2007 have tire pressure monitoring systems. And basically it will turn on a light in the dash that'll tell you, hey, that you've got a low tire. And now, some may not be specific. It may just come on and show you the little tire light to tell you to, and then you need to go out and figure out which one is low. Now, my personal vehicle, it does have the same thing, but it also says, hey, your right rear tire's low. Some of them are a little more detailed at all and everything. And in 2003, one of the placards we showed you previously, that was the tire identification placard, and it tells you what size tires on your car, the inflation, the special. Oh yeah, we do have it. And everything, we do have one. And actually the little black where it says reset, with looks like a tire tread with a little exclamation point in it, that's usually the light that comes on in the dash. It may not say reset, but it'll have that little symbol there. That's kind of like the universal symbol for you've got a low tire. Go back to the previous slide real quick, Sharon. What was the rest of that I had in there? Yeah, the cars are now located on a driver's side door jamb called the B pillar. If your car doesn't have it, then look on the driver's door. Some cars don't have B pillars. If you've got a 2-door car, instead of a 4-door, you may not have that pillar there. So you look on the back edge of the door. It'll usually be affixed there, somewhere next to the driver's seating position. Okay. All right, so let's talk, there's a lot of these on the road now. Let's talk hybrid vehicles. So in general, your hybrid should not cost much more to maintain than a regular car. In general, it has better gas mileage, lower wear and tear, and your hybrid should last a long time with a lot less out-of-pocket expenses. When hybrids first hit the market, drivers were often forced to take them to dealers for repairs because independent shops didn't have the technology, or they were few and far between and they didn't really know, how to work on them. Well, that's changed. Many independent shops can work on hybrids nowadays, and it's the cost of repairs have gone down, and they've also turned out to be pretty reliable. But if you're going to take your car to an independent shop, if you've got a hybrid, check out the shop. Just like Sharon said, when shopping for a car, check out the dealer, check out the shop, see if they have any complaints, see if, with you can contact their office or your local consumer protection office or the BBB, but also you can go talk to them and say, hey, do you know how to work on this? And everything. Do you know how to work on this type of car? And do they have, experience with your make and model? Do they know how to work on a Prius, or do they know how to work on a Honda Insight, or some of the more rarer ones like the Hyundai and Kia both have hybrids nowadays, but they may not be as popular as a as the Toyotas and the Ford C-Max, or other people, or the Chevy Volt. Some of them may not be may not be made anymore. You just want to make sure the shop you're dealing with has experience with your type of hybrid, that if you're taking it in for service. Go ahead, Sharon. Okay. No special regular maintenance is needed on the hybrid system, but there is a possibility that some special part of the system may fail. So, which is most often the large battery pack. Hybrids sold today, they usually have warranties. The manufacturers give pretty good warranties on them, because they want them to last, and they want people to buy the cars, and they don't have to worry about something that's going to break down, or wear out shortly. So most are good for 8 years or 100,000 miles, or 10 years, 150,000 miles. So they guarantee the batteries for, a long time and all. And, oil changes are less frequent, with your routine maintenance than a traditional vehicle, because, you're using the electric engine as well, or electric motor, as well as the gasoline engine. So usually they recommend oil changes every 5,000 miles or longer, depending on the vehicle use. So again, check your, they may recommend 10,000 miles, so you always check your owner's manual and see what it says and what type of oil to use and all. Your brakes may last longer. Many hybrid cars use regenerative braking. I know our county car is a hybrid, and it has a regenerative braking system. It actually has a little thing on the dash that shows you how much energy you've returned when you use the brakes and all. But it also helps, you slow down, using the engine braking and the electric motor braking to help slow down the car as opposed to your brakes. So your brake pads and other brake components should typically last longer, because they're not being used as much. They're using engine braking. So now there is one, let me say this, one safety precaution. Regular vehicles, always read your owner's manual before attempting to service or jumpstart a hybrid vehicle, and what to do if you're involved in a crash. As an example, here's a warning from the first page of a 2019 hybrid vehicle. And this basically says your vehicle has both high voltage DC and AC systems, as well as a 12-volt system, which is this normal for like a gasoline powered car. Both DC and AC high voltage are dangerous and can cause personal injury, severe burns, electric shock, or even fatal injury. To avoid personal injury, please follow all caution labels attached to the high voltage parts. Do not attempt to remove or replace any high voltage wiring. Orange colored, I guess they've standardized this. It's orange colored to show high voltage, as opposed to 12 volts or connectors. Do not touch the service plug located in the driver's side trim of the trunk. If an accident occurs, do not touch any high voltage wiring, connectors, or any parts such as the inverter unit or the hybrid vehicle battery assembly. Do not touch the potassium hydroxide electrolyte that might spill or leak from a hybrid vehicle battery as a result of an accident. So, again, hybrids have a little more precautions than a standard, internal combustion gasoline powered car. So there's, and fire departments and first responders have, I know personal friends who have worked for the county, they've had to learn this stuff. They've had to learn what to do, and they've had to get training and stuff and all, how to deal with crashes when a hybrid or electric vehicle, to be able to protect themselves and also the people involved. So, okay, Sharon. Now, pure electric vehicles, EVs, they need little maintenance when compared to typical gasoline powered car. There are fewer moving parts. There's a reduced number of fluids and extended brake wear intervals. Thanks to regenerative braking, again, they use a regenerative braking as well as hybrids. Still, there are a few electric car maintenance items that must not be avoided, including the following essentials as outlined in your owner's manual. Brakes. Regenerative braking process converts, kinetic energy, returns the electrical power, increasing its efficiency. And the energy is stored in the battery that for the system to use later. It helps recharge the batteries. But this also means your brake pads will last longer, maybe twice as long as on a regular vehicle. So, tire rotation. Well, you still got tires on your car. You still got the same tires as come on your standard gasoline cars. So you still have to, rotate your tires, check them for inflation, make sure you're doing the typical, same thing you'd be doing with a regular car. I don't know. So cooling systems. Now, an electric vehicle, some may have this, some may not. They have a cooling system with coolant that cools the batteries. It keeps because the batteries obviously generate heat. So, and from time to time, it may need to add coolant or replace, per vehicle's maintenance schedule, or a system may require servicing if it's malfunctioning. So that may be something you'd have to do in an electric vehicle similar to a gas-powered vehicle. And there are two other fluids present: brake fluid and windshield washer fluid. Brake fluid should be checked to replace per your owner's vehicle manual. They still have, hydraulic brake system like a standard car, so there would still be brake fluid there. And of course, windshield washer fluid replace as needed. Fill it up as needed and all and everything, and it should be fairly accessible as it is on most cars standard. And keep your windshield clean. Wiper blades, there's no difference between wiper blades on an electric vehicle and then on your regular car. Replace them every 6 to 12 months like we recommended, and you can use them. I give you a little trick. If you want to make your wiper blades last a little longer, clean them every once in a while, like once a month or so. Clean them with a little rubbing alcohol. Just take a clean rag with a little rubbing alcohol and run it down the rubber of the wiper blade. It'll clean dirt and build up off on it, keep the rubber soft, and it may make them last a little longer. Okay, all electric vehicles have air conditioning, and that system may need to be serviced if it's not working properly, just like a regular car. All right, now the other big thing is kind of like hybrids, battery system replacement. The one maintenance area that may cost you more with an electric vehicle, they use nickel metal hydride, lithium iron, or similar type of battery pack, and they do have a limited lifespan. Fortunately, many electric vehicle manufacturers provide a battery drivetrain components warranty covering the battery pack and related components for up to 8 years or 100,000 miles, or whichever comes first. And in some states, which I think is California and maybe Maryland too, I'm not 100% sure, but some states have said, you got to last 10 years, 150,000 miles. Now, things your electric vehicle will never need: oil changes, spark plugs, wires, air and fuel filters. These maintenance items are, a thing of the past in electric cars because they don't have these parts. Exhaust system parts, including mufflers and catalytic converters, are not found in electric vehicles either. So now you may have, you don't have air and fuel filters, but you still may have a cabin air filter, that you may need to change at some point. Again, check your owner's manual and all. A lot of cars have, most modern cars have some type of cabin air filter nowadays. So, okay. So if you're driving a gas powered car, it's stopped for you. I know I had this conversation with a consumer a month or so ago who said, who checks their oil every time you get gas? Well, I know it may seem excessive, but if you develop, in her case, they developed a leak and, some type of issue, and the engine blocked up, and because it ran low on oil. Now, and I'd ask, when did you last time you checked your oil? I don't know. So maybe not each stop for fuel, maybe every other, but check your oil regularly on a gas powered car or even a hybrid car. If it has a gas engine, obviously, it is the lifeblood of your car, and you don't want it to run out. Windshield washer solvent as required. Clean your windshield, check your wiper blades, make sure they're not torn or worn out. Check tire pressure once a month. Look for unusual wear or damage. Check fluid levels of coolant reservoir, power steering, or transmission. If your car has power steering fluid, a lot of cars are coming through with electric power steering nowadays, and it may not. Power steering fluid may be one of those things that is becoming a thing of the past. And add as required. Battery clean and type locators is required. Lights, check all lights and other electrical items for correct operation. Maybe once in a while, go outside, turn your lights on, walk around the car, make sure they're all lit up. Have somebody step on the brake, make sure your brake lights are working and all. It's those things are still on all cars nowadays, obviously. Wiper blades, inspect and change as necessary. And, you can always, locks and hinges, you still got to open and close the door and stuff, spray them with some lubricant and all, WD-40 or some other stuff. Just make sure they're lubricated and, working well. Okay. So we gave these pretty much to you before we added consumer reports, I think. And also the Attorney General's office. We've got their website in there. So if you're not a resident of Montgomery County, but you need some kind of consumer protection help, you can contact the Maryland Attorney General's office and all. So, okay. I think, yeah. And of course, the information to contact our office. I don't know if anybody back answering the phone yet, Sharon. I'm not sure. But you can always email consumerprotection@montgomerycountymd.gov.
Email is a safer bet.
Yeah, that's probably a safer bet right now, and we will respond to you usually within a day. We'll try to answer your questions, promptly. Okay. Any questions?
No, but I've got a thank you.
Oh, there was a question before. You had sent us, Debbie, you'd sent us 2 questions. One was somebody was asking about a car maintenance class. Well, you just had it. No, but like a hands-on one. We used to actually do one years ago, back in the 90s. We did a class for people on Saturdays. I looked around to see if anybody's doing it like a continuing education kind of thing. Not really much anymore. Lots of YouTube videos of how to maintain your car and stuff, but nobody's actually, that I could find, doing any kind of hands-on class anymore. Although it'd probably be a good idea. I would think dealers would take it on and all to get people familiar with their cars when they buy them and all and everything. But I couldn't find any type of hands-on going on right now.
All right. Well, thanks for taking a look. There's so much information out there. Like, I've changed my cabin filter and the other air filter just by watching YouTubes.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about cars, but I can follow instructions. So
Right, and save yourself some money, because
yeah,
cabin air filters are, they're not cheap. They're usually around $30, but they also charge you probably, $60-$80 to replace
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
To replace, as evidenced by the issue I had with my vehicle. So.
Yeah.
All right. Any other
Sharon had
questions?
some passengers. Oh.
It's quiet. I think you've answered everyone's questions already.
Okay.
Great job in anticipating what people were concerned about. And, you two make a great team. It's nice to have kind of both sides of it. How in the world do I go about buying a car not feeling like I'm getting ripped off? All of those websites that you shared, Sharon, were so valuable because it gives you a lot of different places to look and see if this is really a good car for you. And Doug, so many good tips. I'm going to go out this afternoon and clean my wiper blades with rubbing alcohol and do a couple of other things. But it was so comprehensive and so valuable. Thank you so much for coming back again this year and presenting another workshop. As you know, it's being recorded, so people may follow up with you when they see this slide and think, oh, I didn't get that question answered yet. So.
Not a problem.
Okay, we're happy to. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us. It's fun.
You're welcome. Well, thanks to you, and thank you for all the students that joined us today. Hope you have a good week, and hopefully I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right.